play. Mini Wargaming's Beat Matt Batrep.
This is Matthew from MiniWargaming.com bringing you our next Beat Matt Batrep. This is our official first rematch ever done in a Beat Matt Batrep. This time, Dan is coming back trying to beat me. It was a close game last time. Hopefully you already watched it. And we're going to do, once again, Orks versus Tyranids. Except both of us have tweaked our lists. Now, if this is the first time you're watching the Beat Matt Batrep, this is how it works. First off, people go to the Mini Wargaming forums and they challenge me to a game of 40k, fantasy, War Machine, or whatever else we play. If they win, they get a $25 gift certificate, or $25 in points, to the online Mini Wargaming store. So let's just jump right into it. Let's take a look at the armies, as well as the objectives and the board.
If you watch the last game in the Beat Matt Batrep series of Dan versus myself, you'll notice that this army is a little different. It has a lot of similarities to the last one, but he also made some changes. First off, you're going to see a lot of vehicles. This is all led by a big mech with a custom force field. Dan loves the custom force field, which gives cover saves and obscures vision, or whatever you call it, to the vehicles around it. He's with a squad of Burna Boys inside a battle wagon, so they can all put out one flame template and multiply it by 11, which is ridiculous. And then we have another battle wagon, but instead of having the big kill cannon, which he had last time, he's filling it with shoot-a-boys. So he has lots of shots that he can just run around and do. Of course, he's got his 4 squads of truck boys, basically 12 boys, including a knob, inside a truck. And all of these trucks are upgraded so they can do tank shocking. And he's got a large group of Ork Storm Boys. They worked really well from last time, so he brought more. And this time he brings Def Coptas, hoping that their twin-link missile launchers will be able to take down the Trigons, rather than the bikes, which really didn't do anything. So this is 1,750 points of Orks. Now let's take a look at the Devouring Swarm. Once again, I changed my army up. I decided, there's some core elements that worked really well, but I wanted to try something different, just because, why not? I don't want to keep playing the same army over and over again. Of course, the core that I'm keeping is the 2 Termagants in the HQ, who will spawn some cover in the form of Termagants, being backed up by our 2 heavy support choices of the Trigon Primes. They have no upgrades except for being Trigon Primes. And our main troop choices are 5 Genestealer squads. There's 4 squads of 10 and 1 squad of 13, for a total of 53 Genestealers. They have no upgrades. And just for fun, I decided to bring a Doom of Malantai. Now, this is a zone throw that's going to proxy for the Doom of Malantai, and that is a spore pod. I created that spore pod out of paper mache and a styrofoam ball, and Dave actually painted it up for this game. He painted it the morning of, just so that we could play with it. So let's take a look at the board where the fight is going to take place. We've decided to use the desert board. There's a lot of terrain on here made by Tim, as well as Dave, and also even some by Terrainaholic. And so we have this nice centerpiece of the hills with the tower, and it has the 3 adjacent hills. This isn't too big a problem if you're wondering if this is a bit unfair for the Orks. All the trucks, they have to roll a double one to get immobilized, because they get to re-roll. So we've got the cactuses there. That was created by Fireman Tim. Those Ork towers were done by Dave and I think it was Mel, maybe, or Sandra. I can't remember which co-op student it was that did those. So let's take a look at the objectives. We just did an objective scenario. We rolled a 1, so there was only 3 objectives, because it's D3 plus 1 objectives. And Dan got to place first, and then I placed one close by, and then he placed the other one close by. It seems that we have this addiction to wanting all the combat to happen in the same small little area, and so that is how all the objectives got placed. For deployment, we rolled off, and Dan won the roll-off and decided to take first turn, which I was happy for. I was actually going to give him first turn if I rolled higher, because I really need to see where he's going to place his trucks, so that I can place my men in response to that, because he's so maneuverable with all his fast vehicles, and those Burna Boys inside that battle wagon they're a real threat. If he can manage to get his template over 2 squads of Genestealers, those 2 squads are dead, and they don't have any chance whatsoever, because he's going to ignore their cover saves, and if they have Feel No Pain from one of the Termagants, then that's fine, but it's just not going to go well, so I have to stay away from those battle wagons as best as I can. And he puts his Storm Boys on the other side. So I decide to plunk my 2 Termagants right in the middle, in the middle being the middle of kind of his armies. We're obviously kind of ignoring 2 feet of board. And then 1 Termagant on either side. Now the sole point of these Termagants is to just spawn the Termagants, which will be cover, and which will run ahead of the Gene Stealers. Because the Gene Stealers are very valuable. They're 14 points each. And so they're not cheap, so I can't spam them as much as I can with Hormagaunts or Termagants. So I only have 53, whereas if I just brought Hormagaunts, I could bring a lot more than that, probably about 100 of them if I really wanted to. And so I placed 4 groups of Gene Stealers behind the main army, and one group of Gene Stealers is going to be in reserve. He's going to outflank. I'm really hoping that they'll outflank on the side, this side right over here. There is a 1 in 3 chance that they'll come in the other side. There's a 1 in 3 chance to come in one side, 1 in 3 for the other, and 1 in 3 I get to choose. And I also have the Doom of Melantai in a Spore Pod in reserve. I'm hoping that he'll come down after the trucks have unloaded, and that way he can suck the brains out of all the guys. So I'm going to see if I can steal initiative, because why not have a turn of shooting? So I roll a nice big die, and I roll a big fat 5. So the Orks get first turn. So let's see what's going to happen here. First off, he's moving his battle wagons up. He's learned to be cautious and not just blaze forward against the Tyranid swarms, because obviously if I get the first charge in, then he's going to be in trouble. Now the only problem that I have is that his boys are all in trucks, so if I charge, even manage to kill the trucks, then the boys are still there to countercharge. So what I really need to do in my strategy is to shoot down the trucks from a distance, and then use the Trigons to take down the battle wagons as best as I can. Even the Termagants can take on the battle wagons as well, because they do have adrenal glands, which give them furious charge, so strength 6 on the charge, and they're monstrous creatures. So he moves up all his guys, and then of course he uses his Defkoptas to open fire with their twin-linked rocket launchers, and he inflicts 2 wounds on the Trigon. So right from the beginning, he inflicts a couple wounds, and this time I didn't bring regeneration because it was useless last time. He fires a, I think it was the blast from one of the battle wagons into a group of Gene Stealers, and manages to kill one. And then he's just firing the big shootout, which didn't do anything there. And so next we're getting the next battle wagon who's shooting to the Gene Stealers as well, but it scatters nice and far off and just explodes into the terrain. And then he fires the big shooter and manages to inflict a wound, but I do get cover, and I managed to make that, so he's not inflicting a lot of wounds at this point. So now he's opening fire with all his big shooters, the 2 big shooters from the trucks, onto the Trigon, but doesn't manage to do any wounds. Same thing from the other 2 on the other side. He's just firing both of them at the same time, which is why there's 6 dice there. And still doesn't manage to do any damage. So that's his first turn. He just moves up cautiously, takes a few pot shots, and then waits to see what I will do. So I go to spawn Termagants, and unfortunately the 1 rolls doubles right away, but he does spawn 12, so that's a good start. At least I didn't roll like a 1-1-2 or a 2-2-2. 16 or 12 Gaunts is still a good amount. And then he rolls to put Feel No Pain, I believe that's called Catalyst, and he puts that onto the Gene Stealers behind him, and then he moves up to 6 inches. He actually does that psychic power in the movement phase. Next, I'm going to move the Termagants. That's the great thing about this, is that you can spawn the Termagants within 6 inches of the Termagon, and then they can still move and shoot and assault as normal, so you can really get far with your Termagants. But you have to do it at the beginning of the movement phase for the Termagants. These Gene Stealers have Feel No Pain, and they're running into cover, so they'll get both cover saves and Feel No Pain. The Trigons are moving up. This one comes off his base, so I just move up the base and then put him back. Of course, he still has the 2 wounds off of him. The next Termagon's going to spawn. He manages to spawn 9 Gaunts and does not roll doubles, so he'll be able to spawn a bunch of Gaunts that'll provide cover. But unfortunately, I forget to move the Gaunts this turn, so they kind of just get useless in turn 1. But at least they're still there, and I didn't roll doubles, so he'll get to spawn again. And then he puts Feel No Pain on the damaged Trigon. That way it deters Dan from continuing to fight at the Trigon, because he'll get a 4+ save even against the twin-link rocket launchers. And that's a big deal, so we'll see if that works in my favor. And then the Gene Stealers all move up. Careful not to move up too far, because his battle wagons could just move up their 12 inches. Actually 13, because they have the red paint upgrade. Now I'm firing on the truck, and you see I get a lot of hits. They hit on a 4+, but I need 6s to glance. Now it is open top, so glancing is still pretty good. Managed to glance it twice, and it's a -2 for a glancing, and +1 because it's open top, so it's -1, so that's 2 weapon destroyed. But because he's right beside the custom force field, he gets a 4+ cover save, and he makes both of them, and so it negates all of that. The Trigon opens fire next with his strength 5 shots, so he can actually penetrate. So 5 is glancing and 6 is penetrating, and you see I get 1 of each, which unfortunately I didn't roll very well there. For the penetrating, I get a wrecked, because it's +1, because it's open-topped. And for the glancing, I get a weapon destroyed. So he has to roll his cover save. So this is the wrecked one, and he fails it. So it doesn't really matter what he rolls over here. I think he makes it, so he doesn't get the weapon destroyed. Rolling on the careening table, he actually manages to careen the truck forward 6 inches, bringing him up into explosion range for one thing, and he blows up everything within 5 inches. But also his boys are going to have to pile out, and they'll be nice and close for me to charge them this turn. So he does manage to hit a bunch of my termagants, and I don't make any of the saves, and 3 of them actually die from the explosion. So the truck is removed, all the boys, the 4 dice there mark where the truck was, and so he puts all the guys down inside of there. And then I have to roll to see how much it explodes. So I roll, and I actually get a lot of hits, because it's 5+, and he fails most of his saves. This one's on the knob. So his knob takes a wound, and he loses 5 guys to that explosion. So that's what he gets for hiding inside of his trucks. The other Trigon is firing at the other truck, because he doesn't care about the boys in front. He wants to disable that next truck. And this is all the hits he got. 5s are glancing, 6s are penetrating. It gets 2 glancing hits, and that's a weapon destroyed, and they cannot shoot. So he rolls cover, makes the first one, so there's no weapon destroyed, and he rolls cover for the other one, so the vehicle is completely unaffected. Now the Trigon, or the Termagant, is going to fire. It was a little, it wasn't quite clear if he could see him completely, so we decided to give him a 3+ cover save. So the result here is an immobilized and a weapon destroyed, and he makes his 3+ cover save for the immobilized, or weapon destroyed, and he makes the other one as well. So nothing really happened there, so it didn't really matter in the end. So the Termagant from a distance is firing, and he actually makes a 6+ save, so that didn't really matter. So now it's the assault phase, and the Termagants are doing their job. They're running up. They're going to attack here. They're getting their Furious Charge because the Termagant was within 6 inches when they charged. Now, it's a little ambiguous, so we decided at the beginning of the game that if you're within the 6 inches when you charge, you get the Furious Charge, but if you're not within 6 inches after you charge, you don't get the Toxin Sacks. So I was hoping that they would actually not kill all the Orks, so they wanted to kind of make this blockade in the middle. So I only managed to kill 2 Orks, which is good, except that probably was too few for me. He only needs a 3+ to hit my Termagants, and so he's hitting a lot. And he didn't charge, so he's only strength 3, so he needs a 4 to hit, or 4 to wound, but he got a lot of hits. But I did make a few of my saves, luckily. I actually made like 4 out of 7 or something like that. It was pretty ridiculous. His Power Claw goes next, kills 2 more. I lose combat by 3, fail all 3 saves because they're fearless, but 1 Termagant survives, and so that ties up those Orks right in the middle, which is exactly what I wanted. Maybe I would have wanted more survivors there. So the game's just begun. Already we're seeing a lot of carnage. We're seeing that a truck careened, exploded, Orks died inside, got charged by Termagants, which they managed to kill most of, but now they're tied up, which will make it harder for the battle wagons to death rolla around. Both of them have death rollas, by the way. I don't think I said that when we were looking at the armies. And so now it is his turn, which clearly he's close enough now that he can just charge up his trucks and charge, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to withstand that and be able to strike back twice as hard. So stay tuned for round 2 of this Beat Matt Bat Rep.
Visit miniwargaming.com to see our videos 1 month early.